starting on time and finishing on the dot. So welcome to you all on behalf of the Business and Community Foundation, a 26-year-old modest non-profit, and India International Center, which is an institution itself, over the last 6 decades. I'm delighted to welcome you all to our 23rd annual BCF lecture by Amarjeet Singh from SEBI, who's traveled all the way from Mumbai to be with us today. I'd like to acknowledge the presence of the BCF board, our chairperson, Ravneet Pawha, who's also the Vice President of Deakin University in India. They're recently the only university to have started center in India. I also acknowledge the presence of our oldest member, Mr. Katoj, who's been also a founder member. Students from ISDM, Nagma faculty, and all of you. Lady Irving College, Professor Archana Kumar is here, Deepa is here, Tariq from our board, and also from Lady Irving College. And of course the Asia Law School students I can get here, and some from the Delhi School of SRCC. So Ravneet will be the chair for today's session. She'll introduce the speaker. Mr. Katoj will give us a vote of thanks. We'll open it to Q&A after the session. May I request you all to put your phones, your pop, bhangra, rock, all the music on your ringtones to silent mode while you listen to this. He's got about 80 plus slides, so Amarjeet will run us through it, and then we will have the Q&A. And I would request that everybody is brief and articulate your questions so that you can interact with them at the end. But thank you all for being here, and thank you to our speaker, to the BCF board, which is here, and to all of you for coming. Thank you.
Thank you. It's really a pleasure on behalf of BCF and IIC to chair this annual lecture series. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to have you all here. A special welcome to all the young students. I think it's very important to have the young students in the midst to be able to learn, drive change, and to be able to impact the society that we live in. And I do thank Amita for all the wonderful work that she has been and will be doing for BCF in times to come. I do thank the board of BCF for all their amazing contributions through the year, but also ensuring that we work as we should be working. So thank you very much. The pleasure is absolutely mine to introduce our wonderful speaker today. Who better than Mr. Amarjeet Singh himself, India's strategist, thinker, most credible voice in the sector. And I think what is to learn from him is the ability to be able to be impactful and to make the decisions that will impact the societies we live in. Mr. Amarjeet Singh has taken charge as a full-time member of SEBI. With nearly 3 decades of service at SEBI, he has extensive experience in regulating and supervising security markets. Ladies and gentlemen, he has led key departments including market regulation, corporation finance, and international affairs. And I think that's a wonderful experience and a combination of the experience to be had. Mr. Singh was instrumental in implementing primary market reforms, such as introducing UPI in IPOs and conceptualizing social stock exchanges. He has represented SEBI in various committees of SEBI, RBI, and the Government of India. It's interesting from my perspective that in a progressive development economy like ours in India, in the post-COVID era, it has necessitated a sustainable, transparent, and a reliable system for connecting investments with social impact and change. Sustainability and I think the social stock exchange are the answer for a social drive and a future we all want. I think what is also really important to make a note of is empowering social enterprise by raising capital is important. Encouraging responsible investments for social impact is important. Investment opportunity aligned with company values is important. And enhancing social impact through reforms is really important. So today we are going to be hearing a lot about these 3 or 4 areas that Mr. Singh will be covering in his presentation. I will hand over to him, and I think what we might do is we might take the questions towards the end of every section, if that's better, because then we can break up the questions aligned more rather than going through the whole presentation. So we'll get you to get started. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for a very kind introduction. I hope I'm audible to everybody.
Yeah.
So, let me give you a little background to this talk, how I landed here. So, Amita reached out to me a few months back, and I said, we keep very busy and it's very difficult for us to step out, especially out of Mumbai. So, no, you choose a date. Now I have no choice. I said, okay, let me figure out. So we negotiated a date, and this was fixed like several months in advance actually. Then I asked her, what do you want me to speak on? Because we are doing so many things. She said, well, social stock exchange, sustainability, accountability, what you do. I said, that's a lot. So then again we negotiated, and we arrived at what you see on this slide. Going beyond conventional market regulation, and there is some subtext which he said I must talk about. So each of these pieces are worth a lot of time, and we will try and cover as much as we can. And it's very heartening to see lot of students here. And as Ravneet very rightly said, you are the future of India. I mean, I always enjoy when I'm addressing youngsters. In Mumbai, we are used to more business-like conferences, so it's a real pleasure for me to be here. What I'll do is, I have 3 parts to my presentation. Let me get to the outline straight away. Not very good with it, but yeah, here it is. So, first we'll do role of regulators. I'm sure all of you know what regulators do, or especially what SEBI does in India. We are a 3-decade-old organization now. But still, just to set the context, we'll spend some time on that. Then the social stock exchange is one piece where I would like to spend a little more time. And then sustainability, and then lastly, that is just one slide, and don't get scared by 80 slides. I think Amita mentioned I'll be rushing through it, and hopefully a lot of visuals I've tried to put. So let me straight away jump into it without further ado. How many of you see Hollywood movies? Lots of them. Good. So I'll start with Hollywood movie posters. Okay. So role of regulators, first is the need for regulation.
Yes.
So, I don't know how many of you saw this. I have seen this movie. The Wolf of Wall Street. More is never enough. Just focus on the byline. Arbitrage. Right? Another famous movie. I didn't see this one, but Inside Job. So this is a very famous documentary. If you've not seen, please see. This is the best treatise on the global financial crisis. And the byline says the film that cost over $20 billion, I guess, whatever that number is, huge number. Beautiful description of what happened in the global financial crisis. Rogue trader, he will risk everything to beat the system, right? Then this guy is the Wizard of Dice. His name is Bernie Madoff. He ripped off $65 billion from American savers. And only those you trust can truly betray. That's the byline, it's not very clear. The Big Short. This is another interesting movie. Saints don't live on Park Avenue. Right? So why am I showing you these posters? Just to convey, movies are a reflection of what happens in our society. Right? And these movies are very close to reality. Some of these things actually happen. What does it tell you? More is never enough. Greed, right? So, greed, we've known about greed since time immemorial. And you need somebody to regulate greed in the market. And that is why we are there, right? So the short point is, regulators will continue to be relevant as long as there is greed, as long as there is misconduct, as long as there is fraud, and we would be required, regulators would be required to protect the society against those evils, right? You can say, no, greed is good, but that's a different discussion, right? So let's move on. What is the mandate that we have? Okay, how many of you follow football, soccer? Some of you do, right? So let me show you some visuals from a very famous match. This goes back 2006 FIFA, and if you see in this sequence of visuals here, Zidane, headbutt of Materazzi. Here is a the close-up of that, and suddenly this is in the last few minutes of the game, and the umpire enters and he says, no, you are out, and he shows him the red card, and he's being thrown out of the stadium. And by the way, this was the last match for Zidane, and Italy actually won the match because he was thrown out. So Italy won, I think, 5-2 or 4-2. Let's go 2014, another FIFA match. Suarez actually bit one player. This Uruguay, player, and there was no action taken on the ground, but he was banned from 9 official matches, banned from all football activities, banned from all stadiums, and fined. So, we are somewhat like umpires who are watching the game, how the game is being played, and if somebody doesn't behave, we can throw him out of business. This we do on a daily basis. We debar people, we fine people, we also put restrictions on their business practices. Just like what happens on a football ground, you can simply, that's the umpire role is very much enshrined in what we as a financial regulator do. SEBI, the mandate is very simple. 3 verbs, and they are very active verbs. Protect the interest of investors in securities, develop the market, and regulate the market. Right? So as I already explained, what can regulators do? Impose economic penalties, debar access, suspend the play, cancel the license, place lien upon the property that we seize, and limit business practices. Now, let's talk about the structure and accountability. So here, I'm focusing more on SEBI. Being a body created by an act of parliament, we are a statutory regulator. Our accountability is huge, and on this right-hand side, I have listed what our accountability is to. We receive parliament questions. Whatever decision we take, whatever orders which we pass, they are challengeable before a tribunal, that is called Securities Appellate Tribunal. And the decision of that tribunal can be challenged before Supreme Court, so that is almost like a high court. We are also called by Standing Committee on Finance from time to time, and we are asked difficult questions. We are subject to RTI Act, we are subject to CAG audit, we have to file returns and reports to the central government, and also our report is placed before the parliament every year. We are accountable to Committee on Subordinate Legislation, Committee on Rajbhasha. There are many committees, in fact I have listed just few. We are subject to international assessments. Only this year we are undergoing an assessment by IMF. And we also have to, of course, we are accountable to public, we are accountable to you. So it's a huge accountability. We have a board which has 9 members. I don't need to read all of that. We have a well-oiled machinery by now, which side, we work on transparency, ensuring that the markets are transparent and well governed. We work on, let me just to give you a little more flavor, transparency, for example, addressing conflict of interest, grievance redressal. The latest initiative was our virtual assistant Seva. So on the market development and ease of doing business, we keep track of what is the need of the market and how we can come up with relevant products and practices. So here you see list of new products and social stock exchanges. One we will talk about in some detail. We introduce new mechanism for the development of the market from time to time. UPI is one great example. Let me come to this, supervision and enforcement. So this is again a very standard role which any financial regulator is expected to play, and that is that keep a very close tab on what is happening in the market. Keep a good supervision on anything going wrong, you should be able to discover in time and so on. So here we are in the last few years, we are leveraging technology for improving the scope of supervision. We are using number of analytical tools. We are seeing how we can apply AI tools into this work. The objective is twofold. One, we want to reduce the potential blind spot. So see, what typically happens is, so the regulator needs to keep track of the risks which are building up in the system and detect those risks in time and take timely action so that the potential harm to society is minimized. So with that objective in mind, it becomes very important that you keep track of any potential issues which are building, and it should be detected in time. So that's what I mean by reducing the potential blind spots. If the blind spots somewhere in a corner keep growing, become bigger, then the loss to society can be much more. And second objective is to reduce the time between the occurrence. See, despite the best of laws that you may have, some bad conduct will still happen. Some misconduct is inevitable. As we've seen, if you see the history of human society, there's always some bad conduct here and there. So how do you, as a regulator, our job is how do we reduce the time between occurrence of a bad event, occurrence of a misconduct, and its detection. If you detect in time, the loss can be minimized. And we are automating supervision and so on. So let me not go into those details. So these are 4 pillars of what we do, and we are leveraging technology for delivering on those 4 pillars. Very quickly, evolution of regulatory perimeter, how it has evolved over time. In the first decade, SEBI Act was passed in 1992. We focused on the conventional market participants like stock exchanges, brokers, investment bankers, and so on. We also had depository participants, CRAs, towards the end of the decade. The regulatory perimeter has widened over time. The second decade, we had derivatives trading, new products like gold ETFs, capital protection oriented bonds, and also the securities market regulators were expected in the light of the global financial crisis. We were expected to contribute to mitigation of systemic risk. Systemic risk primarily the guardian of systemic risk is the central bank in every country. So we have an FSDC structure where all the regulators are member of that Financial Stability Development Council, which is chaired by Finance Minister and meets every 6 months. So that is another new role which came up in the second decade. Third decade, we had mergers of forward market commissions with SEBI, that is a commodity derivative regulator. New products like REITs, InvITs, municipal bonds, green bonds, ZC, ZP, and I'll talk about that later. Then new entities brought under the regulatory framework, research analysts, board managers, research analysts, measures taken to develop the corporate bond. And then new avenues for fund mobilization like AIFs, SME platform, institutional trading, social stock exchange. And now I will jump into social stock exchange, but let me just take a quick pause, and if you have one or two questions we could quickly take on the part which I have just now covered.
Just wanted to check about the social listening, like in terms of the risks versus the regulation, that the phase where there is a risk which is happening in the market, and as guardians to the different risks which are happening, how do you collate data, SEBI, in terms of is that like now it's very you all have digital skills, digital forums where actually you can have listening. What is the listening tool of SEBI in terms of, so I'm sure it's through the banks, the members, but is it also directly to the consumers?
Yeah, it's a good question. So basically what she's asking is, what is our listening mechanism?
Yeah.
How do we gather inputs from the market? So there are multiple sources. So A is we engage with our stakeholders through advisory committees. So we have, for every segment, we have a advisory committee. I think we should have more than 20 committees today. And in those committees, we have people from that particular segment. Let's say primary market advisory committee. In primary market advisory committee, we have primary market experts, investment bankers, some corporates. So they become our source of information, and these committees meet from time to time. Then we also receive complaints. Number of complaints have gone down over the years, but people write, the ordinary investors write what are the problems they are facing, and we definitely look at them. Then we conduct a lot of outreach programs with investors. That is a separate wing which does that, financial literacy programs. So there we go meet people, listen to them, and then we are a very open organization, and I can take some pride in saying that. Doors are always open. People just can come tell us what they are going through, what are the issues in the market, and so on. So all the market players reach out and we meet them, and so the inputs there also, we have all the trading data is coming to us every day. So we have a lot of data available there also. We can analyze trading patterns, we can look at suspicious behavior. So then there is a whistleblower policy, people blow whistles and in the corporates and can eventually come to us as well. So there are multiple ways.
One question I had was the expectation from society from what regulators need to deliver is quite high. As someone who's heading this organization, how do you deal with that, and what parameters do you have in place?
We try our best, that's all I can answer. But it's a very, very relevant question. See, you're right, expectations of the society from regulators have been on the rise, and people don't want anything to go wrong, and if anything goes wrong, unfortunately, we are often the scapegoat that we can catch this in time and so on. So, but see, the point is the kind of jobs which, sir, can I finish, or you want to come in now?
No, just a short question.
Yeah.
Is it
After that,
related?
yeah.
Yeah. I'll just finish this and then come to you. So so what I was saying was financial regulators or any regulator in any space typically see some of the role that we play has to be reactive. despite the best of policies, proactive policies you may have, some misconduct happens and some harm and damage is done. The point is, are we quick enough to pick it up
yeah.
and minimize the damage?
Yeah.
And if we demonstrate that time and again,
Yeah.
are we, as you asked about the digital part, are we digitally skilled
Yeah.
to, to sort of keep up pace with what is happening in the market? So are we skillful in keeping in tune with the times? Are we nimble? Can we act fast? Can we think on our feet? Are we diligent? And if we demonstrate that over time, people would develop faith. I'm not saying for SEBI, I'm saying for any
Yeah,
financial
sure,
regulator. People would develop faith, have more trust, and these guys are doing their job, but tsunami can still come.
Yeah.
So it hits everybody. So I think there is no black and white answer to it, but it's a constant game, and you are tested every day, and you have to play it well.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Sir, I'm Professor Khanna. I have a short question. Do you have a sufficient safeguard to prevent regulatory capture by interested parties to use your institution to
Yeah.
advantage? And
Absolutely.
the short question connected to this is, do you have a policy, process or regulation on conflict of interest?
Yes.
Where employees, directors, members have to declare their interest,
Yes, yes.
that I don't have any
So-
personal
so-
interest
so-
in a particular
So let
subject.
me give you a short answer. Answer is yes.
Okay.
So let me move on to social stock exchange. We will not be able to cover it. So now let's talk about social stock exchange. Right? So let me first set the context for this new piece. As we all know, we are a very fast-growing economy. It's still a long way to go, and we need funding. Tons of money we need from all sources, be it government funds or be it private sector, be it philanthropic capital. And philanthropic capital I want to underline. So our developmental needs, considering the large population that we have, is huge, and we need funding from all sources. In fact, there's an estimate of NITI Aayog of 2020 which said we needed 6.2% additional spending of GDP to achieve 2030 SDGs. We are committed to UN SDGs, and this was the estimate, and I'm sure this figure would have gone up because of COVID. So this is one important thing to understand. So we need patient capital, we need capital from all sources, we need loads of it. And second context is, now let's talk about philanthropy, let's talk about non-profit sector. We have a very vibrant non-profit sector. We have 252,000 tax-exempt NPOs. 50% of them are very small ticket size. The top sources of funding are CSR, grants from various foundations, and our activities of these NPOs generally resonate with SDGs. The cumulative, and another interesting, relatively recent development is, as India has grown, the economy has grown, we have more and more high net worth individuals, more and more affluent givers who are interested in philanthropy, and who are interested in philanthropy with a purpose. It is not just, they want their money to go to a good cause which can contribute to development. So it's a more enlightened philanthropy, if I can say. You have a doing good index. This index focuses on India, on the Asian markets, and basically this talks about how good is the environment for private capital to flow into the social sector. It tries to measure that, and it has 4 benchmarks, 4 performance clusters. So India is on the 3rd one. We are doing okay, but on the top is China and Singapore, and and then there's a doing better and doing good. But this is just an indicator. So as I said, shift from philanthropy based on personal motivations to bolder aspirations of contributing to a higher cause, building the nation. That kind of shift is happening in the non-profit segment. And today there is an appetite for innovative instruments in the philanthropy section. That's where social stock exchange fits in well. Now let me give you the third context. First we saw the Indian economic scenario and the need for funds. Second, we saw the non-profit sector. Third is we have a fantastic securities market infrastructure. Our market cap to GDP is over 130%. Let me tell you, the Indian finance professionals or securities market professionals, they are in great demand both in Wall Street and in the Wall Street. They are respected. If you go to Wall Street, you will find number of finance professionals there as well. We are today amongst the top 5 markets. We have world-class institutional infrastructure. We have, for example, T+1 settlement today, which very few markets have. If you are trading today, you are assured of securities or funds on the next day basis. We are rated very well by various external assessment bodies, IMF, World Bank, ISO, and so on. In short, we have tremendous capabilities and experience in the securities market space. Now the question is, so just to give you a little background, I'm sure some of you would know this. There would be a social stock exchange which would be set up in India, was announced by our finance minister a few years back. I think it was a 2019-20 budget speech where this would be set up, and it would be set up under the auspices of SEBI. So when this proposal came to us, we were frankly not very sure because we didn't have the experience and the capability of dealing with the non-profit sector. We are used to dealing with big listed companies, brokers and so on, but not the non-profit sector. So we thought, are we the right agency for doing it? These are self-doubts we were having, but since it came from the government and we took it upon ourselves, and then we asked these questions, which I have listed in this slide. Can we leverage our securities market infrastructure for the benefit of the social sector? Can we facilitate raising of funds by social enterprises within the securities market domain? Can we develop some new structures and mechanisms? Can we redevelop, re-customize some of our existing products? Can we create associated? So basically, we thought, can we leverage our capabilities and capacities for the benefit of social sector through something called social stock exchange? So it's very important to understand this at a conceptual level. Otherwise, you may get confused. SEBI regulates markets, and how is this non-profit coming in? So what is social stock exchange? So basically, this Venn diagram just conveys it all. So you have securities market on one hand, you have social sector needs on the other. The intersection is social stock exchange. It's something like the stock exchange, the securities market, is a capitalistic institution. It has come from Europe and US. So basically, I like to call it capitalism or a capitalistic institution shaking hands with socialism, in some sense. This is the intersection of commerce and philanthropy. And that is what we are trying to develop. Also, sometimes people may get confused that it's like 5 blind people, visually challenged people, trying to define an elephant. It's a fan, spear, snake, tree, what is it? So, I'll come to that details now. So basically, I think let me first explain, it is not a new exchange that we are setting up. It is going to be a segment on the existing stock exchanges, and both NSE and BSE have already set up the social stock exchange. It's not a new exchange that we're getting into. It puts purpose over profit. Again, it links to the sustainability side. If you ask me to summarize what is this experiment about, just 3 words will capture that. Transparency, accountability, trust. We are just trying to build more transparency, more accountability, more trust in the non-profit segment through the social stock exchange mechanism. So it's a separate segment, it transcends conventional understanding, it is, holistic view, structures, mechanism and processes. Framework is developed after extensive stakeholder consultation. Key pillars. So we will run through the details little fast in the interest of time because we have to cover sustainability also. So suffice it to say, let me not get into the details, otherwise we'll get lost. So each of these has a hyperlink and each of this is a slide, so I'll not go into those specific details. Eligibility criteria, there is certain eligibility criteria for coming on the platform. So one can come in two ways. One can register. Register means you are agreeing to make certain disclosures to the exchange on an annual basis. You may or may not raise money. Second tier is you would list. And when you list, you will have to issue an instrument called zero coupon, zero principal instrument that we will see in a bit. There is a registration criteria. There are disclosure requirements. So let me just quickly, show you this. Vision, target statement, strategy, management, operations, and so on. Let me very quickly, just take you through this. So this is a very important slide. What are the activities which are eligible for the purpose of listing? So these are 16 broad eligible activities which we have actually culled out from SDGs, our own national priorities given by NITI Aayog, and there is a schedule in Companies Act which talks about where the CSR money can be spent. So it's a combination of all the three. And then of course, these activities have to be geared towards underserved or less privileged population or less privileged geographies. And then the 67% of the activities should be going to the target population. So which means 1/3 of activities can be anything else. So it's a hybrid sort of a structure. We are keeping corporate foundations, political organizations, religious organizations, and infrastructure and housing companies, except affordable housing. We are keeping them out of this for the time being. So I think let me jump to the capacity. Some another important detail. Minimum investment now is 2 lakhs, and minimum amount that can be raised is 1 crore. These were higher thresholds, but we are based on our, like you said, we listening to people. We are used to very large numbers. So these numbers are very small from the market perspective, but then it's not a number game. We need to get more and more, more traction on this, and we have to recognize. See, this we used to debate in our committee, and Matthew was also there, one member of our advisory committee. So we used to debate how can an instrument like this, can it benefit a non-profit working for the tribal welfare in Madhya Pradesh? That's the real challenge. How can the market help the last mile? So that's the challenge.
That will be the real transformation.
That will be the real transformation. So, zero coupon, zero principal instrument, this is very interesting, and I would like to spend a quick minute on this. So basically this we struggled with. We had set up 2 committees, by the way, to help us in this journey. So idea is when you list on the exchange, since you are students, how do you list? Anybody wants to answer? If you want to raise equity or debt, how do you list? What is essential for listing? Anyone? Of document. And you need an instrument. You need a equity share, or you need a debenture to list. So similarly, here for the purpose of raising money, you need an instrument. So we came up with this idea of ZC, ZP instrument. And idea is zero coupon, zero principal instrument, no financial return, it's only a donation certificate for all practical purposes. However, it comes with a promise of social returns. You see the last circle here in this slide, with the promise of social return, and we requested government to notify this instrument under securities contract regulation rules, so they have done that. And I think probably we are one of the few jurisdictions, I'm not aware of any other, where this kind of instrument, where the promise of social return is there, has been recognized in law as an instrument to enable raising of funds. Another very quick point on social stock exchange, see, this has been tried in some other countries also. This is the last slide and we'll move on to the third strand. It has not really succeeded in many countries. And reason is, so we have thought through the entire ecosystem, because when you list, you need a disclosure metric, we've described that. When you list, investors will have faith only if those disclosures are verified by a third party. So we brought in the framework for social impact assessment. Now you can say, where are the social impact assessors? So we are training them also. Our sister institute, National Institute of Securities Market, they certify the assessors. So 2000, in fact that is coming here. Okay, let's go through it quickly. This has already been set up, around 100 unique NPOs have been registered, over 2000 professionals have passed certification, ZC/ZT issuance by NPOs, 10 have been listed, and total fund raised is 22 crores. In fact, I stand corrected, I was saying 14, so it's actually more than that. Impact assessment standards being revisited. Capacity building fund, that's another very important piece. See, we are mindful that the small NPOs will not be, fully equipped to deal with exchange requirements. So there we brought in the concept of a capacity building fund, which has already been set up. NABARD has agreed to be the nodal agency for that. NABARD, SIDBI and other institutions are helping. Our target is quite ambitious. We want a 1 billion fund. Some fund has been created, and the idea is to facilitate smaller NPOs to list on this exchange with the help of that fund. This is another important piece for the success of this social stock exchange. We have advisory committees to help us. As I said, we were not the experts. We depended on the expertise which we borrowed from expertise available in the social sector. Indicators for success, it should emerge as a top channel for donors and issuers. It should unlock new capital for the social sector. It should drive social impact to the last mile. I think we should have that here. So let me pause here and take one or two quick questions. On social stock exchange. Yes, please.
We have found that as far as the initiatives, for example, we changed the abbreviation. Previously it was CSR, now it's CSC. And even the social stocks, we find that the companies do not spend the capital, they were made to spend around 2% for such initiatives, but they did not comply with that. And my second question is that we are finding that even the stock exchange, there are large monopolies coming up. Startups are not getting that sort of chance, and these monopolies are very much big in the fintech, space, in the e-commerce space, in the education space, telecom space, etc. So how are they going to be regulated by the stock exchange? Because we want basically a diversification, so that there's a lot of competition. Otherwise, there will be so much of risk involved with that. Because in case of the SEBI, takes action again, then there will be a risk of question. So there will be a bigger risk, to the macro economy.
No, thanks for your comment. But I would request, if you have anything on, we can talk about that maybe separately. On social stock exchange, if you have a question, please ask.
No, it's
Could
very
I
related to
request
that.
the audience to just keep the question short so that we can make sure we can cover more questions as well?
Yes, please.
Sir, I have a quick question. So I'm Vishali. I worked with Niti Consulting in the impact assessment space for 15 years. And currently we have started a service where we are helping NPOs to register and list on the social
questions. So while we are creating this vertical in our company, there are a few questions which are being asked by us from NPOs. So something that I would want you to clarify a little. So why would a corporate or any other funder not fund through direct means and go for social stock exchange? Because there's already a mechanism for the not-for-profits and they are following it. So what edge, if we see from a corporate perspective, why would it go for social stock exchange and not get direct disclosures, etc. from the NPOs?
So see, the answer is this slide. There is a greater transparency. While I appreciate what you're saying, if you are donating, and if you're donating a large corpus, you could always ask the recipient of the funds to make disclosures, but on one-on-one basis. But here it is a more open, more transparent. Here there is a disclosure template which is given by the stock exchange. It is subject to impact assessment audit. So I guess it's only the relative trust would be higher if you come. See, for example, if I ask you today to invest, let's move away from the non-profit sector. If I ask you to invest in an unlisted company or a listed company, where will you invest? Obviously in a listed company, because you have so many disclosures of listed companies which you can get on a continuous basis. It's a similar thing here also. So there are enough incentives.
I was more in
I think, can we take more questions later? Let's others also ask.
I'm Amarjeet, founder of Gram. My question is, what is unique NPOs? Like, I need to understand a little bit more on that. Thank you.
We haven't said unique NPOs. What we've said is social enterprise, and we've defined a social enterprise. So also, let me quickly add, it is not just the non-profits, it is also for-profits. We are not so much focusing on for-profit now, because for-profit you already have a, those established mechanisms are available. But there also, anyway, let me not get there. There is no unique NPO. It is only social enterprise. And what I showed, that slide where you have what are the activities that enterprise should be engaged in, what are the geographies it should be serving, which underprivileged section of society it should be serving. And 67% should be focused in this. That is the definition.
Yeah, you had a question.
Just one.
Yes, please.
Small NPOs, of course.
Yeah.
How much would it cost me, very broadly, to register them?
So, again, a very good question. So, we are mindful of the cost. I don't know the numbers. Definitely, it would be some cost. I don't think we put any registration fee or any of those kind of things. That's where the capacity building fund will come in. But nonetheless, where we might not have prescribed, there would be some cost which will have to be incurred. It may not be statutory, but even getting those documents prepared would be a costly affair. You need some help. That's where, in case you cannot do it, you need to approach the exchange and say that we need funds for holding us through. And there is some mechanism we are working on. It can be some short-term loan which can be paid back by the NPO going forward and so on. I think in the interest of time, if it's okay, should I move to the third one? Otherwise,
what we'll do is we'll cover your presentation, and then depending on how much time we have, we can take
okay,
questions.
sounds good. So very quickly, now let's come to the sustainability. Yes, please. Yeah, my last question. Yeah, please.
Sir, you talked about some assessors. So those assessors, are they also doing evaluation of greenwashing or auditing greenwashing?
Greenwashing I covered in this. There, the answer to your question is, if somebody is working in the sustainability space as defined in the social stock exchange framework, if you're working for, let's say, on the environmental issues, there the greenwashing issues will definitely crop up and the assessor will have to address that. Yes. So now, moving to the third and the final piece, not final, we have one more, but yeah, just third piece now. Problem and the context. You know this, right? My man. You know what is happening in Gujarat, right? So how the things have changed in the last 20, 30 years on the climate front. In 1990, this is just a cartoon. we expected to see wildfires every 100 years. That was what was the expectation in 1990. In 2000, this is no 50 years, 2010, 20 years, and now it's next year. And we are seeing it frequently go up. Brazil, these are Amazon forests, so our vulnerability as a country also is pretty high. That's what this slide tends to project. And if you see droughts, extreme temperature, flood, landslides, storms, wildfire, all of these, as in the recent year you see those graphs are actually extending out, which is not a very good sign. So you may ask, what is SEBI doing in this space? How is our regulatory perimeter extending? So let me give you that perspective first. I'm not a sustainability expert, but I can give you the financial regulators' perspective on this. So our job is that when investors invest in securities, they have right to information. We are a disclosure-based regulator. So now, if the risks relating to sustainability are going up, so we feel that the company should make disclosures to that effect. That's where we come in. So it's the non-financial disclosure space that we've entered into. And our journey in this space started way back in 2012 when we told 100 companies, top 100 companies of the stock exchanges to disclose business responsibility reports. And this, of course, I will maybe, I'll take you through that. But it is about, as a financial regulator, it is about risks and opportunities, the disclosures around that. Economic impact of climate change, again, the projections are not very good. There are different estimates how the economy, how the GDP would be affected. And the worst prediction which I have here is coming from the RBI report, which says that due to the physical risks which we are witnessing now, which are happening, as much as 9% of GDP may be affected. There are transition risks, physical risks, and the financial effect of those risks, disclosure of which becomes important. So I'm not jumping into these because it needs more time. Of course, the companies which are on top of the game, they have opportunities in the sense that they can achieve cost efficiencies. If you are sensitive on ESG issues, you can attract talent. Today, a lot of youngsters want to work with the more evolved, more ESG conscious companies rather than just working anywhere. They may settle for less financial compensation, but they like to go for companies which are creating more impact and which are more ESG sensitive. Competitive advantages, it of course enhances your reputation, brand value, and so on. What are the driving forces in sustainability? So the way we see it from the financial sector perspective, the investors are the main driving force. In fact, regulators and governments came little later, but investors in the West, in European countries or in US, they were already asking for, there was no regulatory requirement at that time, but they were insisting on disclosures on what is company strategy on sustainability issues. And they were willing to write the check only if you were environmental conscious, if you were conscious of the social issues and so on. Customers, and as I said, regulators and governments, now almost every country is moving towards, we started with voluntary disclosures, comply or explore disclosures, but in India we've had compulsory and mandatory disclosures. So we require disclosures for top 1,000 companies. So in this slide, the institutional investors is linked with the previous slide. There's an increasing push by them on the issues of climate change, human capital management, and governance issues. As you can see, these are the parameters they look at when they invest in the companies. Let me just play this very nice video. This is 1 minute, so let's switch quickly. There you go.
buying, but you're going to be making. I want to know you're making a better world.
I'll give my money to the one who never robs the earth.
I'll spend my fortune on you if you promise to think of the less fortunate too.
I want to know you making a more equal world.
I'll invest in your technology to put a man on Mars. But wait, why can't it be a woman? I'll click on your app, I'll walk into your shop.
As long as you're fair to the farmer and the scrub. I'm gonna be buying what you're gonna be making. And if you make the world a little better too, no one will feel richer than you.
Isn't it great?
Yeah, very nice.
It is such a wonderful video. Every time I see, I get moved. So, okay, let me come back. Yeah, you need to help me here. I think I lost that window. Yeah, thank you. That's good. So see, this small video, I mean, you don't really need a lecture on sustainability. It just says everything you need to say. It talks about equality, it talks about diversity, it talks about fairness. And that's all, and caring for the world, caring for the environment. That's all it is about. And the point is, it is not that regulators, governments, or the companies are driving it. It is society which is asking for it. So it is a change which we are all, going through. But we are all doing our bits and pieces, wherever we are, and we are trying to contribute to this. So I am mindful of time.
Yeah, it's all right.
Can I continue?
Yes, we have about 10 minutes.
Oh, we have? Oh, okay. Because I thought 4:30. So we okay, 10 minutes thanks. Yeah, sure. So, as a regulator, as a financial markets regulator, we are concerned with, as I said, that the disclosures should be there and disclosures should be reliable. If you look at the trend, global trend, we have global, so world is asking for, or the multinational companies are asking for, we need one common language, one common global language. We don't want to be making disclosures. India wants something, Singapore wants something else, US wants something else, Australia has something else. Give us one common, there's a lot of demand for one common global language when it comes to sustainability disclosures. And the solution is ISSB standards, International Sustainability Standards Board. They came out with their global baseline. But we have, in fact, we were already working on it. As I said, we started on this way back in 2012. In 2021, we completely re-engineered our disclosure template, and we call it Business Responsibility and Social Report, BRS, Sustainability Report, BRSR. And on the right hand side, I've tried to give you the trends in various countries. You don't need to really bother reading that. The broader trend is shift from voluntary to mandatory. Every country wants mandatory disclosures. That shift is already happening. In India, as I said, we started in 2012. We extended it to top 500 listed companies in 2015. 2017, integrated reporting. 2019, BRR was extended to top 1,000 companies from 500 in 2015. 2021, we completely re-engineered. What we have is, earlier report was a qualitative light touch report. The new report is quantitative. It has about 800 data points. Now the latest initiative that we've taken is, as I said, the disclosures which are made should be credible. So we are trying to bring in the requirement for assurance on those regulators, on those disclosures. To that effect, we also have to be mindful of the cost of making those disclosures, the ease of doing business. So we have carved out some essential disclosure parameters from our BRSR template, and we call it BRSR code. So we would require, and that is only 42 parameters. So we would require disclosures on those 42 parameters to be assured by a third party, and also the disclosures for value chain partners. So unlike West, we very consciously followed a climate plus approach. In fact, in Europe, in most of the geographies, you find a lot of focus on climate. We are, of course, our template covers climate-related issues, but considering our social disparities, our income inequalities, we thought it would be good, considering our society and our economy, we should have a climate plus approach where S and G are equally important and not just the E. We have 9 principles. There are some, and these 9 principles are actually, they've been developed for detailed disclosures. There are essential indicators which have to be disclosed, and there are leadership indicators which are voluntary, which one may choose to disclose or not. Then there are, as I said, a lot of data, 800 data points, quantifiable. We've also allowed interoperability of reporting in case a company is already following some recognized disclosure template. One could just cite that and also basically cross-refer instead of making all the disclosures all over again. And it is applicable to thousands of companies. These are details. I will not bother you with these details, but basically, okay, let me spend a quick minute on this. Environmental related disclosures, we are focusing on GHG emissions. Scope 1 and 2 are essential disclosures. Scope 3 is voluntary, that is a leadership indicator. Air pollutant emissions, waste generated and waste management, waste generation and waste management practices. If you are operating in ecological sensitive areas, disclosures relating to that. Recycling, reclaiming. On the social and economic side, conditions of employees, the difference between the wages of an average worker vis-a-vis a CEO, the human rights, community, consumers, and conduct. A wide range of issues. 4 I've already explained to you, so I need not. Now let's talk about greenwashing. So this is another concern we have. Again, if I can explain in one line, if a company says that it is ESG compliant, or if it says it is environmentally very conscious and it is doing ABC, all that we ask for is you be true to the label. Whatever label you are telling the outside world, you better be true to it. If you are not true to it, then we will step in and take action. Basically, then you are lying, right? So, when you say you are green, are you really green, or maybe you have shades of yellow which you are trying to portray as green? So, this is a big risk from the ESG side. As regulators, we see that, and this is one of my officers actually just put together some media clippings together, and these are all real news. Like Shell has been facing a lot of challenges. There are some, statements made by HSBC on the greenwashing risks, and the takeaway is that 1 in every 4 climate-related ESG risk incidents globally was tied to greenwashing. It's an important kind of takeaway. Then banking and financial services sector saw a 70% increase in the number of climate-related greenwashing incidents. Greenwashing is nothing but misrepresentation, misstatement, and false or misleading practices. So here's a cartoon which says that we need to demonstrate a corporate commitment to the environment. Make sure the break room donuts only have green sprinkles. Shades of greenwashing, green hushing, green building, green labeling, green shifting, green lighting, green crowding. Let's not bother. So a lot of just greenwashing should be good enough. There's a company called Whale. I don't know how you pronounce it, but maybe Whale is a Brazil company based in Brazil, which was listed in US, and they were in the business of constructing dams, and they declared that their dams are safe. They have done safety audits, and in 2019 there was a huge disaster and a lot of people lost their lives. So SEC had come very heavily against them, and I think they settled by paying some $50 million, was a huge amount of money which they paid to settle with SEC. In Australia, ASIC took action against Vanguard because some of the funds, the claim made by funds was that they are investing in ESG companies, but this was not true, and then ASIC charged them, and I think they again settled. Vanguard is a very respected name in US. On the greenwashing practices by airlines. So let me also mention in Europe, there's sensitivity on these issues. I think probably the maximum in the world it would be in Europe, and the KLM was making certain claims about how flying actually offsets certain, emissions and other negative effects if you follow other routes of transport. So they said stop misleading us, and what I read last is they are not only KLM, they are investigating 20 other airlines on the greenwashing practices. So I am done with the third part. Let me very quickly complete this, and then we'll subject to time. So this is nothing to do with what we've seen so far. Let me end with a Zen story, and this is particularly meant for students. So there was in a village, there were two temples, and this is probably a Tibetan village, and two monasteries. And inmates of monasteries hated each other. They didn't like each other. And there was a very clear instruction to the inmates: if you get to meet somebody on the road from the other monastery, just don't talk to them, they are dangerous people. So there were little boys who used to run the errands for their seniors in both the monasteries. And if you tell a young boy, don't do this, he will definitely do it. So this teenager, he meets teenager from the other monastery. That's the visual. By the way, my daughter did this for me through using AI. I said, I just need a visual, and she generated this. So this boy asked the other boy, hey, where are you going? So the other boy says, well, where can I go? I am just a leaf which has fallen from the tree, and wherever the wind takes me, I'll go there. Wherever the breeze takes me, I'll go there. He's heard all this chatter from his seniors, and this has stayed with them. So he gives a very philosophical answer. So other boy is little stumped. He said, look, I asked a simple question, and he couldn't respond. He couldn't answer that. He goes back and he says, look, I made a mistake today, he tells his seniors. You had advised me not to speak, but I did speak to the boy. I met him on the road. So they said, okay, you shouldn't have spoken in the first place, but now that you've spoken, you go back tomorrow. We have to show them now. So when he says that wherever the wind takes me, so you ask him, what if there is no wind? Okay, it looks good. So, he prepares the answer, and he's rehearsing, and he goes in the morning. And again, hey, where are you going? He meets the other boy. The boy says, wherever my legs take me. You know, that answer changed next day. And he never said anything about the leaves. Then again he goes back and he says, look, now let me give up. You were right, they are dangerous. They are not willing to engage in any meaningful conversation. So you have to go back again and you better show them down, and tomorrow you go and tell. And he said, I'm giving you a very stupid suggestion, but you say this. You say, if he says, wherever my legs take me, you say, what if you had no legs? No, I can't say this. No, you go and say. We just have to show them down. He follows his senior's instructions. He goes there and he says, he asks the question, where are you going? He says, where I'm going? I'm just going to the market to fetch vegetables. So the moral of the story is, you know, be prepared for various challenges in life. But your existing rule books, your existing manuals, your existing SOPs, standard operating procedures, will not be enough when you go out in the world. So you will, this is, some of you are graduates or postgraduate students, this is just the beginning of the learning. So you will have to, you know, be very resilient, keep studying, and be, you know, the life will ask you new questions, which your existing rule book will fall short. Keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we have maybe time for one or two questions. We have 20 minutes. Great. So we do have time for questions. If you want, you can.
Oh yeah, I
yes.
think I will.
Yes, please.
I have one question. Hi.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Richa and I am a technician and as well as a PhD scholar in radio and college. As of now, I can tell you I'm not that much of a finance and economics person, but yes, one question came to my mind very strikingly, that any NPOs, if they do any financial misconducts in future or any sustainability misconducts, how does SEBI plan to penalize those? And will it be just by debarring the NPOs, or will there be any other penalties which will be imposed on them? And how will the disclosures happen? Will it be like business responsibility reports, or they'll just disclose to SEBI and that's all?
No, can you repeat the first part? The NPO's wife, for very misconduct? You mean?
Yes. If they do any misconduct, so we know about businesses, but with terms to SSC, if the NPOs listed in SSCs are doing any misconduct, how will they?
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, okay, yeah, fine, yeah, okay. That we could, yeah.
Can I? Should I ask the question? I have a short question on your SSC. You said minimum investment is 2 lakhs. If I am a donor, अगर मैं 1,90,000 दूंगा तो आप नहीं लागू करोगे. कम से कम 2 लाख रुपए एक आदमी को देना चाहिए. ये मुझे समझ में आया है. And you are also saying कि अगर आपके सारे IPO ने 1 करोड़ रुपया नहीं इकट्ठा किया और 99 lakhs किया है तो ये पैसे आपको वापस करने पड़ेंगे. मैं इस पर एक कमेंट करना चाहता हूँ. मैं कंज्यूमर प्रोटेक्शन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन से हूँ और कई सालों से, कई दशकों से चंदा इकट्ठा करते आए हैं. 100 लोगों के पास जाते हैं तो 2 लोग पैसे देते हैं, 98 लोग कन्नी काट जाते हैं. और जो हमें 1000 रुपया दे देता है हमें इनकरेज करता है, और जो 5000 दे देता है बल्ले बल्ले. 2 लाख वाले हम जैसे लोग कहाँ से लाएंगे? ये मेरा सवाल है आपसे. और मेरी विनती है कि आप इसको, आप कैपिटल मार्केट में तो 10-10 रुपये के शेयर बेचने के लिए उनको ऑथराइज कर रहे हो कि भी आपका मिनिमम ऑर्डर साइज है 20-25 हज़ार रुपये आपका एक लॉट में ले लो, और एनपीओ को कह रहे हो कि आप मिनिमम 2 लाख लाओ. ये कहाँ का आर्गुमेंट है?
I stand corrected. खन्ना साहब, आपका क्वेश्चन बिल्कुल सही है. I just double check. So 2 lakhs we what we started with.
हाँ.
So now we've reduced it to minimum application size is 10,000 rupees.
10,000. आपको मुबारक हो. कम से कम आपने एक उम्मीद छोड़ी है, क्योंकि मैं जिस एनजीओ से मैं हूँ ना, उसने रजिस्टर कर लिया है, उसकी रजिस्ट्रेशन करा रहे हैं, पर हमको डर लगता है कि भैया जाएंगे तो कहीं मुंह के बल्ला गिर पड़े. We are very unsure of ourselves.
My apologies on this, because see, we started with 2 lakhs. 2 lakhs. Why we started with 2 lakhs? that is our retail investor threshold, right? Anything, and we wanted some. So our fear was, we don't want people with very small investments to get exposed to something which they may not understand. That was our initial thought. But over time, we have, after a lot of discussions with NPOs, it has been reduced to 10,000 rupees.
और जो मिनिमम थ्रेशोल्ड है 1 करोड़ का वो वहीं पर है।
वो उसमें कोई गलती नहीं है।
तो इसका मतलब ये है कि जिसने 90 लाख रेज कर लिए उसको पैसा वापस करना पड़ेगा।
ऐसा है 75 लाख है, आपको मिनिमम 75% रेज करना है। It is not that 90 lakhs पे आपको वापस करना पड़ेगा। अगर we say minimum subscription should be 75%.
तो कोई इसमें मान लो कोई कमी रह जाती है तो कोई फॉलो ऑन ऑफर से भी इसको कॉम्पनसेट कर सकते हैं?
नहीं, उसमें तो आपको पैसा वापस करना पड़ेगा अगर 75 lakhs पे नहीं आता। Why don't we talk separately? I think.
Okay, thank you.
So
Thank you.
specific.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Basically one.
Just one sec. We'll just start coming. Okay, after you. After you.
My name is Dr. Mukhtar Alam and I am from an organization called Janpal. So we wish to register on this social external exchange. So I just wanted to that is there any success story, because we have not heard success story. So a small success story of an NPO listed at the external exchange. So especially the highest which they have been able to receive from among the corporates. And another just a following question that I also make an appeal that like a lot of NGOs registered, because you mentioned one of the grants is the international grants. So a lot of the NGOs who were registered under FCRA, if their FCRA registrations are cancelled, so logically their volume of funds goes down. So and I know because having been in this sector since 1995 with protest, so a lot of NGOs they have lost the FCRA registrations. So I think this is a discouragement. So I would like to take some reflections on this from SEBI.
So as a follow-up question, I wondered if the regulator is schizophrenic, because on one side you have the Home Ministry going and the income tax and ED going hammer and tongs at the non-profit sector. On the other side, you talk about encouraging and the public good and the last mile. And then you talk about CSR fund, half the top companies did not spend that measly 2% they were supposed to, but they were happily donating to electoral bonds, over 7.5% to political donations. So what are we really talking about? I mean, there is so much of double standards, and why can't SEBI as a regulator create a level playing field for the ease of doing good in this country? Because non-profits exist where the government is not able to reach the least and the last. They contribute 2% to the economy. They employ people in huge numbers, thousands, in millions. Next to the public sector, they're one of the highest employers. And what do we get out of it? We get flack, we get suspicion, we get doubt, we get questions thrown at us. So it's high time that these double standards are called out.
Yeah.
And there must be some level playing field for the non-profit sector.
Yeah.
Right.
Would you like to answer?
Maybe.
Yeah, I think otherwise I might forget. Yeah. So I think 3 questions. So let me answer each of them one by one. So one is action for misconduct against NPOs.
Yeah.
So see, it's little early days. Right now, the focus is on getting more and more listings and getting more traction. As we go along this journey, once we notice some misconduct, let's say there are some false disclosures, or the main issue would be wrong disclosures, false disclosures, some misutilization of funds. That would definitely, because when you are, listing on the exchange, you are governed by the rules and regulations of the exchange and SEBI. So depending upon the examination, depending upon what is revealed, action will be taken. But as I said, it is little early days for that. We'll have to see how it plays out and all this will probably become more relevant once you have some good number of listings for a good, decent period of time. So on the success story, I think again a very good question, but little early days for that also. So some good names have listed recently, and I think some, I don't remember the names offhand, but you can check, they're available on a exchange website. And from different sectors people are coming and making inquiries. In fact, 100 have registered, which is a big number. And I don't want to underplay the significance of that registration, because once you register, you are putting yourself, you are committing to make certain disclosures. And that itself will put you on a little higher pedestal. You're not only committing to make the disclosure, but also get them audited, get them assessed by a social impact assessor. So we should look at those 100, how their ability to raise money. They may not issue a ZCZP, but are they able to gather more funds just because they listed there? I think time will only tell. In course of time, we will see how they are able to do better, because otherwise they will not list. There's a cost to it, right? So, yeah.
I think third question was Amita's question.
Yes, I'll come to that, of course. That's I think elephant in the room. So, but I will probably limit myself only to what SEBI does and what SEBI can do. I will not get into FCRA issues. I will not get into ED and other stuff that you mentioned. That is just not in my remit. CSR also, it is MCA, not us. So, as far as we are concerned, there are no double standards. And I can say it with confidence. It's a very transparent system, and anybody can come and list. We will take action if things go wrong, but that, as I said, will take some time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah.
Sir, my name is Dr. Parth and I'm a biologist, and I've worked in the transferring of knowledge, like from the technology part to the application part. So sir, how do you think that BRSR and the industries are able to digest those, like their compliance? How do you think that SEBI is able to communicate to the like industries, for example, they don't know how to do this emission calculation. So how does any capacity building sources available, or like how do you think it would be transferable?
So, see, again, a good question. So, I think your question is more on how these disclosures will be standardized and how they will be monitored. So we are working on all of that. So, in fact, we are working with various, we have an advisory committee, we have some experts helping us develop those standard calculators, so that the idea is that the disclosures which are made, it should be consistent and comparable if the company relates to a particular sector. As of now, the limitation is that the BRSR disclosure matrix is very generic, it is not sector specific. But over time, it will evolve, then we will be able to develop sector specific. It's again a long journey, see, this whole sustainability movement, we should see it as a multi-year effort. It is not, a quick thing which will
take time. One last question.
Thank you, sir, for a very patient explanation. Very difficult topics to understand. Just in terms of I'm Dheeraj, I represent Praxis here, and we have been analyzing BRSR data for last 4-5 years, and before that also we were looking at the BRR data. And so, because we talked about the scores system here in terms of SEBI already having a grievance redressal system, just wanted to know if for BRSRs also we are planning to have something in place, because already we have 140 questions and they provide very precise information about company functions. So your reflections on that.
So what is your question exactly?
So are we looking at extending these grievance redressal systems to BRSRs?
Yeah, sure. So see, under our scores platform, you can definitely file a complaint. If score actually gives you a drop-down menu, Perhaps sustainability disclosures may not be there, but it's a good idea. I will carry this with me. But there would always be a residual entry, others, and you can just click that and make a comparison. Of course, it would be good to know for us also.
Yeah, and I think that if there are any other specific ideas or thoughts, I guess you can write and we can pass that on to you for consideration. Okay, great. I think it's been a great session. Thank you so much for a very, very insightful session. I might pass on to Mr. Katur for a closing.
Thank you. On behalf of BCF, I would certainly like to thank Mr. Amarjeet for coming all the way from Bombay and for being the chief guest at our annual lecture this afternoon. In fact, when Namita mentioned about Mr. Amarjeet, I was not too sure how well it would go down in a social sector organization like us. But I think it's been just like a breath of fresh air, and especially his approach. You know, how he came out in the beginning showing Hollywood and soccer and, you know, climate change and all that. I think that is what the young students must have really appreciated. So, I would again like to thank him for being with us and especially, you know, giving us the insights into the social stock exchange, you know, nuts and bolts. It was something perhaps new, at least to me as a non-finance person, and I'm very grateful to him. And also now to the students who come all the way from various parts of Delhi to be here with us for this BCF annual lecture. Thank you very much.
A token of appreciation for you from the students.
There's one more.
Good, thank you. It's 5 o'clock and we close the session. Thank you very much everyone for coming. It's been a pleasure to have you all here. Thank you.